Oh, wow. Are you two on your way to a Shrek party?
The smell hit me first, cheap cologne mixed with something else I couldn't quite place. I stood in my own garage at 11:30 on a Tuesday night holding my wife's gym bag like it contained a bomb, which, in a way, it did. "Marta?" I called toward the house. No answer. She was probably already passed out, exhausted from her latest extended workout session at the fitness center where she worked as a manager. Funny how those sessions had been getting longer and more frequent lately. My name's Evan McKinley, but everyone calls me Mac. 45 years old, contractor by trade, married to the same woman for 18 years. I fix things for a living. Broken pipes, cracked foundations, busted electrical systems. Turns out I'm pretty good at spotting when something's fundamentally wrong with the structure, including my marriage. I unzipped the bag. Sports bras, yoga pants, protein bars, all normal. Then my fingers found something that made my blood freeze. A box of protection. Magnum size, because of course. And underneath that, black lace lingerie I'd never seen before, still with the tags on. Well, crap, I muttered, sinking onto my workbench. The garage suddenly felt smaller, the fluorescent light buzzing like an angry wasp. I could almost smell the Axe body spray. 18 years. 18 wasted years of marriage, and this is what I get. I thought about confronting her right then, storming into the bedroom and demanding answers. But something held me back. Maybe it was pride, maybe it was curiosity, or maybe it was the contractor in me. When you find one problem, you keep digging until you understand the full scope of the damage. The next morning, Marta bounced into the kitchen like she was auditioning for a cereal commercial. She wore her usual workout gear, designer leggings that probably cost more than my work boots, and a tank top that showed off the results of all those extended sessions. "Morning, honey," she chirped, grabbing her protein shake from the fridge. "I've got another retreat this weekend. Team building thing." I looked up from my coffee. "Another one? Didn't you just have one last month?" Her smile flickered for just a second. "The fitness industry is very competitive, Mac. We have to stay ahead of the curve." "Right, the curve." I took a sip of coffee, studying her face. "Where's this one?" "Oh, one of those conference centers outside town. Super boring corporate stuff. You'd hate it." I nodded like I believed her. "Sounds riveting." She kissed my forehead, a quick, distracted peck, and headed for the door. "Don't wait up Friday night. These things run late." After she left, I sat in the kitchen for a long time, staring at the spot where she'd been standing. The house felt different now, like someone had shifted all the furniture just slightly off-center. My phone buzzed. Text from Barb, our neighbor across the street. Barb was 73, retired, and had made neighborhood surveillance her full-time hobby. "Mac, you might want to know. Saw Marta leave with some muscle-bound guy in a BMW last night around 10. Thought she was at book club?" Book club. Right. I'd forgotten about that lie. I texted back, "Thanks, Barb. Probably just a work thing." But I was already forming a plan. That afternoon, I drove to Radio Shack, yes, they still exist, and bought a small GPS tracker. Nothing fancy, just something to satisfy my curiosity. I told myself I was being paranoid, that there was probably a reasonable explanation for everything. The tracker went under Marta's car that evening, magnetic case stuck to the frame behind the rear wheel. Simple job. I'd done more complicated electrical work in my sleep. Friday came. Marta left for her retreat with an overnight bag and that same artificially bright smile. I watched from the window as she drove away, then opened the tracking app on my phone. The little blue dot moved through town, past the highway that would take her to any legitimate conference center, and stopped at the Riverside Motel on the east side. The kind of place that rented rooms by the hour and didn't ask questions. I waited 2 hours, then drove over. Marta's car sat in the parking lot next to a silver BMW. I didn't need to see the license plate to know whose it was, but I looked anyway. Trainer 1. Subtle. Through the thin motel room curtains, I could see shadows moving. 2 figures, definitely intimate. My hands gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles went white. I could have kicked in the door, could have made a scene, screamed, thrown punches. Instead, I drove home and went to my workshop in the basement. If you're going to fix a problem, you need the right tools. I pulled out my chemistry set. Yes, I had one. Don't ask. Part of a community college course I'd taken years ago when I thought about changing careers. The instructor had been very thorough about dyes and their applications. Brilliant green powder, food safe, but incredibly persistent. Mix it with a little carrier agent and you could stain just about anything for weeks. I also had itching powder. Don't judge me, I'd bought it for a prank on my buddy Darren's 40th birthday and never used it. The combination went into a small syringe, then into my jacket pocket. Saturday morning, while Marta was at her team-building exercises, I let myself into the house and found her gym bag. The protection was still there, along with a small tube of personal lubricant. I'm not proud of what I did next, but I'm not ashamed of it either. The syringe made it easy to inject my special mixture into the lubricant tube, then reseal it perfectly. A little green dye, a little itching powder, and a lot of patience. Let's see if they like their workout extra spicy, I muttered, putting everything back exactly as I'd found it. Then I waited. Marta came home Sunday evening, and I knew immediately that my plan had worked. She walked funny, kept scratching at her arms and legs, and her skin had a faint greenish tint that makeup couldn't quite cover. "How was the retreat?" I asked innocently. She glared at me. "Food poisoning, terrible catering." "That's awful. You look a little green around the gills. If looks could hurt, I'd be 6 feet under." But the real payoff came Monday morning when Barb sent me a video. The footage was grainy, shot through her window with her phone, but clear enough. It showed Marta and a tall, muscular guy sneaking back to our house around midnight Sunday, both of them scratching like they had fleas, and both tinted an unmistakable shade of green. Barb's text read, "Shrek called. He wants his couple back." I laughed so hard I nearly choked on my coffee. The worst humiliation was still ahead. I was just getting started. Monday night at Flanagan's bar, the story spread like wildfire. I didn't have to say much, just sat at my usual stool, nursing a beer and letting Darren do most of the talking. Darren was my oldest friend, ex-military, built like a tank, and blessed with the kind of personality that could make friends with a rattlesnake. He also had a mouth like a megaphone when he got excited. "You should have seen them," he told the growing crowd around our table. "Green as dollar bills and scratching like they rolled in poison ivy. Mac's neighbor got it all on video." Tommy, the bartender, leaned in. "Green? What kind of green?" "Hulk green," I said, taking another sip. "Radioactive green, the kind that doesn't wash off easy." The whole bar erupted in laughter. Within an hour, half the neighborhood knew about the Hulk couple and their mysterious condition. By Tuesday morning, the story had reached Marta's workplace. I knew this because Serena called me. Serena was Marta's best friend and fellow gym employee, one of those people who lived for drama and gossip. She had the kind of personality that made you want to tell her secrets just to see what she'd do with them. "Mac," she said, barely containing her excitement, "you need to know what's happening here. Everyone's talking about Marta and Julian." Julian. So that was his name. Julian Carter, according to Serena, the gym star personal trainer, social media influencer, and apparently my wife's new hobby. "What are they saying?" I asked. "Well, they both called in sick Monday and Tuesday, and when they finally showed up today, they're both still kind of green and scratchy. The whole staff WhatsApp group is blowing up with memes." I could hear the glee in her voice. Serena might have been Marta's friend, but she was also the kind of person who enjoyed watching other people's lives implode. "That's unfortunate," I said, trying to sound sympathetic. "Mac, I have to ask, did you know about them?" "Know about what?" "Come on. Everyone knows Julian's been sleeping with half his clients. But Marta, she's married. To you." The way she said it made it sound like being married to me was some kind of terminal illness. "News to me," I lied. "But thanks for the heads up." After I hung up, I sat in my truck outside a job site, thinking. The green dye had been satisfying, but it was just the opening move. If I was going to do this right, I needed to think bigger. That evening, I found Marta's burner phone. She'd hidden it in her dresser drawer under a pile of workout clothes. Not very creative, but then again, she'd never expected me to go looking. The phone was full of text messages and photos that made my stomach turn. Julian was everything I wasn't, 6'2", perfectly sculpted, with the kind of confidence that came from never being told no. The photos showed him in various states of undress, flexing for the camera like he was auditioning for a fitness magazine. The texts were worse. Detailed descriptions of their encounters, plans for future meetings, and, worst of all, jokes about me. "Hubby working late again," one read. "More time for us to play." Another, "Can't wait to get you alone this weekend. Gonna make you forget all about that loser contractor." I screenshotted everything, then put the phone back where I'd found it. Wednesday night, Darren and I paid Julian's BMW a visit. We didn't do anything criminal, just let the air out of his tires, soaped his windows with cheater's itch in big letters, and left a green-stained towel on his dashboard. Juvenile? Maybe. Satisfying? Absolutely. The next morning, Julian found his car in the gym parking lot, and according to Serena's breathless phone call, he went ballistic. He was screaming about vandalism and calling the police, she reported. But what's he going to tell them? Someone soaped his car and left a towel? The cops would laugh him out of the station. Sounds like he's having a rough week, I said. Oh, it gets better. He's convinced someone's targeting him specifically. He keeps looking over his shoulder and asking if anyone's been asking questions about him. Paranoia. I liked that. A scared Julian was a sloppy Julian. Thursday evening, Marta finally confronted me. I was in the garage working on a cabinet repair when she stormed in. Her skin still had that faint green tint, and I could see scratch marks on her arms where she'd been digging at the itching. "We need to talk," she said, crossing her arms. I looked up from my work. "About what?" "Don't play dumb, Mac. I know you know." "Know what?" Her face flushed red, well, reddish-green. "About Julian." I set down my screwdriver and turned to face her fully. "Oh, you mean your boyfriend? The muscle-bound idiot with the vanity plates?" She flinched like I'd slapped her. "It's not what you think." "Really? Because I think you've been screwing your coworker in cheap motels while telling me you're at book club and corporate retreats. Am I close?" Tears started forming in her eyes, but I felt no sympathy. Those tears were for getting caught, not for what she'd done. "Mac, I can explain." "Explain what? The protection in your gym bag? The lingerie I've never seen? The fact that you and Romeo turned green as grass after your last little rendezvous?" Her mouth fell open. "How did you figure it out?" "Marta, I fix things for a living. When something's broken, I can usually spot the problem pretty quick." She tried a different approach, stepping closer and putting her hand on my arm. "Look, things between us haven't been great lately. We both know that. Maybe we can work through this. Go to counseling or—" I pulled my arm away. "Work through this? You want to work through the fact that you've been lying to me for months? That you and your boy toy have been laughing about what a loser I am?" Her face went pale under the green tint. "You read my messages." "Every single one, including the ones where you called me pathetic and boring." She straightened up, and I saw the moment she decided to go on the attack instead of defense. "You know what, Mac? Maybe I did say those things. Maybe they're true. When's the last time you took me anywhere nice? When's the last time you made me feel attractive or wanted? When's the last time you acted like you wanted to be here? That's not the point. The point is that Julian makes me feel alive again. He makes me feel beautiful and desired and green and itchy." She glared at me. "You did that. Whatever you did to us at the motel, that was you." I smiled. "Prove it." "I don't have to prove anything. I want a divorce, Mac. I'm done with this marriage and I'm done with you." "Funny thing about that," I said, pulling out my phone. "I've been doing some research on divorce law. Turns out adultery still matters in this state, especially when there's photo evidence." I showed her the screenshots of her text messages, photos Julian had sent her, even a picture I'd taken of them together at the motel. "You can't use those," she said, but her voice had lost its confidence. "Actually, I can. I also closed our joint bank accounts this morning and changed the locks on the house. Your stuff is packed and waiting by the front door." She stared at me like I'd grown a second head. "You can't just kick me out of my own house." "Watch me. The house is in my name, bought with my money before we got married. You want to fight about it? Call a lawyer, but you might want to find somewhere else to sleep tonight." She stood there for a long moment, opening and closing her mouth like a fish out of water. Finally, she found her voice. "This isn't over, Mac." "You're right," I said, turning back to my work. "It's not. If they thought they'd hit rock bottom, they hadn't seen the basement yet." Friday morning brought a call from Mike Hendricks, the head trainer at Marta's gym. Mike was one of those guys who knew everyone's business and played all sides. The kind of person who collected secrets like baseball cards. "Mac, buddy, we need to talk," he said. "You got time for coffee?" We met at Denny's on 5th Street. Mike looked nervous, constantly glancing around like he expected paparazzi to jump out from behind the menu board. "This is awkward as heck," he started, "but I figure you should hear it from someone who genuinely cares about you." "Hear what?" "About Marta and Julian. Look, I've known about it for months, and I should have said something sooner, but..." "But what?" Mike rubbed his face. "But Julian's got connections. His uncle owns 3 gyms in the city, and he's been making noise about expanding. Nobody wanted to piss him off. So you all just kept quiet while he screwed my wife. It wasn't like that, Mac. We thought, heck, I don't know what we thought, that maybe you guys had some kind of arrangement or something. I stared at him. An arrangement? You know how it is. Marriages get complicated. People work things out different ways. Right. And it never occurred to anyone to just ask me. Mike looked genuinely uncomfortable. Would you have wanted to know? The question hit me harder than I expected. Would I have wanted to know? Part of me thought maybe ignorance would have been easier, but only a small part. Yeah, I said finally. I would have wanted to know. Mike nodded. For what it's worth, most of the staff thinks Julian's a piece of crap. Guy's been bragging about his conquests for years. Married women, engaged women, doesn't matter to him. Conquests? That's how he talks about it, like he's collecting trophies. He's got this whole system. Finds women who are unhappy in their relationships, tells them what they want to hear, gets them into bed, then moves on to the next one. My hands tightened around my coffee cup. And Marta fell for it. Hook, line, and sinker. She wasn't the first, Mac. Won't be the last either, unless someone stops him. Someone like who? Mike leaned forward. Someone like you. You want my advice? Don't just get mad, get even. That bastard's been ruining marriages for years. Time someone gave him a taste of his own medicine. After Mike left, I sat in the parking lot for a while, thinking. Up until now, my revenge had been personal, about Marta cheating on me. But this was bigger. Julian wasn't just some guy who'd made a mistake. He was a predator, and I was just his latest victim. That afternoon, I got a call from Serena. She sounded excited, which with Serena usually meant someone else's life was falling apart in an entertaining way. Mac, you're not going to believe what happened at work today. Try me. So Julian's been acting all paranoid since his car got vandalized, right? Well, today he accused Tommy from maintenance of following him around. Made this huge scene in front of everyone, screaming about maltreatment and threatening to call the police. What did Tommy say? Tommy's like 60 years old and weighs maybe 130 pounds soaking wet. He told Julian to go screw himself and walked away. But here's the good part. Julian's outburst was right in the middle of the main workout floor. All the clients saw it. I could picture it. Julian's carefully maintained image cracking in public, showing everyone the insecure bully underneath the muscles. How's Marta handling all this? That's the other thing. She's been trying to distance herself from him all week, acting like they barely know each other, avoiding him in the hallways. But everyone knows they're connected. The whole green thing made sure of that. Perfect. Nothing like a little social pressure to destroy a relationship built on lies. Thanks for the update, Serena. Mac, can I ask you something? Go ahead. Are you behind all this? The green stuff, Julian's car, all of it? I paused. Serena was gossipy, but she wasn't stupid. And right now I needed allies more than I needed to keep secrets. What do you think? She laughed, a sound like wind chimes in a hurricane. I think Julian picked the wrong guy's wife to mess with. I also think this is the most entertainment we've had at the gym in years. Just remember, Serena, sometimes the best revenge is just letting people destroy themselves. Oh, honey, I know. But sometimes they need a little help getting started. Saturday brought the charity 5K run that the gym sponsored every year. Marta had been planning to participate for months. It was a big networking event for the fitness community, and she never missed a chance to schmooze with potential clients. I signed up that morning. The registration table was set up in the park downtown, staffed by volunteers from various local businesses. I paid my entry fee and got my race number, then spent some time scouting the area. The finish line was perfect, right in the middle of the park, with bleachers full of spectators and a big banner stretched between two poles. Very public, very visible. Darren met me at the registration table, looking confused. Since when do you run races? Since today. You bring the stuff? He patted a backpack slung over his shoulder. One drone, fully charged. One custom banner, professionally printed. One remote control, idiot-proof. You sure you know how to work that thing? Mac, I flew reconnaissance drones in the Middle East. I think I can handle a toy from Best Buy. We set up position in the bleachers, about halfway up with a clear view of the finish line. The drone was small and quiet, the kind hobbyists used for aerial photography. Nothing suspicious about it. The race started at 9 a.m. I spotted Marta and Julian near the front of the pack, both wearing the gym's team colors. They were trying to maintain some distance from each other, but it was obvious they were together. They still had that faint green tint. The first runners started crossing the finish line around 9:30. Marta and Julian were in the second wave, running side by side despite their attempts to look casual about it. Now? Darren asked, his finger hovering over the drone controller. Wait for it, I said, watching them approach the finish line. Wait, now. The drone rose silently from behind the bleachers, carrying its payload, a banner that read, "Congrats to the Green Dream Team," in bright green letters with two cartoon characters that looked suspiciously like the Hulk. It deployed right as Marta and Julian crossed the finish line, unfurling above the crowd like a green flag of surrender. The reaction was immediate. Laughter rippled through the spectators, then grew into full-blown applause. People started pointing and taking pictures. Someone in the crowd shouted, "Hey, it's the Hulk couple!" Marta's face went from green tinge to bright red. Julian looked like he wanted to disappear into the ground. They tried to keep running to get away from the attention, but the damage was done. I filmed the whole thing on my phone, making sure to get their faces as they realized what was happening. "That's going on YouTube," Darren said, grinning. "Facebook first," I corrected. "Then YouTube, then everywhere else." By Sunday morning, the video had been shared 300 times and viewed over 10,000. The comments were brutal. "Is that the trainer from Premier Fitness? Dude's a sleaze. My friend works there. Says he's been cheating with married women for years. Green with envy much? Karma's a witch, and apparently she's green." Monday brought a call from Mike again, but this time he sounded worried instead of conspiratorial. "Mac, you need to pump the brakes, man." "What do you mean?" "I mean, Julian's talking about hiring a lawyer, says you're harassing him." "Harassing him how? By existing?" "The car thing, the drone thing, whatever you did to make them green, he's putting together a case." I laughed. "What's he going to tell a lawyer? That someone put itching powder in his protection? That a drone flew a banner over a public race? Good luck proving I had anything to do with any of it." "Maybe not, but he's also talking to HR about Marta. Says their relationship was consensual, but you've been stalking them." "Let him talk. I've got screenshots of every text message they sent each other. If he wants to make this a legal issue, I'm ready." Mike was quiet for a moment. "Jesus, Mac, you really went nuclear on this, didn't you?" "They started it. I'm just finishing it." "What's the endgame here? You want them fired? Arrested? What?" I thought about it. What did I want? At first, it had been simple revenge, make them pay for humiliating me. But now it was bigger than that. Now it was about justice. "I want them to understand that actions have consequences," I said finally. "I want everyone to know what kind of people they really are." "And then what?" "Then I move on with my life." But even as I said it, I knew it wasn't true. This wasn't something I could just walk away from. Not yet. Turns out I wasn't the only one with an axe to grind. Misery, as they say, loves company. Tuesday morning brought an unexpected visitor to my job site. I was installing new electrical outlets in a kitchen remodel when a woman in her 30s approached my truck. She was attractive in a sharp, professional way. The kind of person who looked like she could run a Fortune 500 company, or dismantle one with equal efficiency. "Are you Mac McKinley?" she asked. "Depends who's asking." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "My name's Rebecca Torres. I think we have a mutual acquaintance." "Yeah? Who's that?" "Julian Carter." I set down my drill and gave her my full attention. "You a friend of his?" "Former girlfriend, very former." She glanced around the construction site, then back at me. "I heard through the grapevine that you and Julian have had some disagreements recently." "You could say that. Mind if we talk somewhere private? I have some information you might find interesting." We drove to a coffee shop downtown. Rebecca ordered a double espresso and got straight to business. "Julian and I dated for 8 months," she began. "Best 8 months of my life, according to him. He had this way of making you feel like you were the center of the universe." "Had?" "Until I found out I was just one of 4 women he was seeing at the same time, including 2 of his clients and a married woman whose husband was deployed overseas." I felt a familiar anger rising in my chest. Nice guy. "Oh, it gets better. When I confronted him about it, he laughed, actually laughed. Said I was naive if I thought a guy like him would limit himself to one woman." "When was this?" 6 months ago. I've been waiting for the right opportunity to return the favor ever since." She reached into her purse and pulled out a flash drive. "Julian's not just a cheater, Mac. He's also a thief." "What do you mean?" "He's been skimming money from his personal training clients, charging them for sessions he never provided, selling them supplements at marked up prices, even stealing from the gym's petty cash fund. I've got bank records, receipts, email exchanges, everything you'd need to prove it. I stared at the flash drive. Why haven't you turned this in already? Because Julian's uncle owns half the gyms in the city, remember? I tried going through official channels, but somehow my complaints kept getting buried. Julian's got protection. So what's changed? Rebecca's smile turned predatory. What's changed is that you've already started a war with him. And from what I hear, you're winning. She was right. The green dye incident had been the talk of the fitness community for weeks. Julian's reputation was already damaged. This could finish the job. What do you want from me? I asked. Help me destroy him, completely and permanently. I picked up the flash drive. What's on here? Financial records going back 2 years. Julian's been stealing thousands of dollars from clients in the gym. There's also video footage from his apartment, hidden cameras he didn't know about. You bugged his apartment? I had a key, and I knew he was bringing other women there while we were dating. The footage shows him with at least 6 different women over a 3-month period, including your wife. My stomach clenched. I don't need to see that. You don't have to. But the footage also shows him bragging about his scams, talking about how stupid his clients are, even planning some of his thefts. I turned the flash drive over in my hands. This was bigger than anything I'd planned. This could end Julian's career, maybe even land him in jail. Why should I trust you? I asked. Because we want the same thing. Julian destroyed your marriage, and he destroyed my relationship. He's been doing it to people for years, and he's never faced any real consequences. Until now. Until now. I pocketed the flash drive. What's the plan? Leave that to me. I just need you to keep doing what you're doing. Keep the pressure on, keep him paranoid and off balance. When he's distracted, he makes mistakes. That evening, I met Darren at Flanagan's to fill him in on the day's developments. He listened to the whole story, nursing his beer and occasionally shaking his head. So let me get this straight, he said when I finished. You've got an ex-girlfriend with evidence of financial crimes, a gym full of people who hate Julian's guts, and a wife who's trying to pretend none of this ever happened. That's about the size of it. And your plan is? Keep escalating until something breaks. Darren was quiet for a moment. Mac, you know I've got your back on this, but you need to be careful. You're playing with some serious crap now. What do you mean? I mean, financial crimes are federal offenses. If this Rebecca woman is right about Julian stealing money, and if you help expose it, you're going to be in the middle of a criminal investigation. So you better make absolutely sure your own hands are clean. Because if Julian goes down, he's going to try to take everyone else with him. I hadn't thought about that. Up until now, everything I'd done had been technically legal, annoying and embarrassing, but not criminal. But if I started using stolen evidence or participating in a conspiracy to expose financial crimes, I could be crossing lines I couldn't uncross. You think I should back off? I think you should be smart about it. Julian's already proven he's willing to destroy people to get what he wants. If you corner him, he's going to fight back with everything he's got. Wednesday brought confirmation of Darren's warning. I was working on a bathroom renovation when my phone rang. Unknown number. Mac McKinley? Yeah. This is Julian Carter. We need to talk. I felt a chill run down my spine. Do we? Meet me at the parking garage behind the Marriott downtown. Tonight, 8 o'clock. Come alone. And if I don't, then things are going to get very unpleasant for you. I know what you've been doing, Mac. The green crap, the car vandalism, the drone at the race. I've got witnesses. Witnesses to what? Maltreatment, stalking, criminal mischief. I'm building a case against you, and when I'm done, you're going to wish you'd minded your own business. The line went dead. I sat in my truck for a long time, thinking. Julian was scared. That much was obvious. Scared people did desperate things, but they also made mistakes. At 7:45, I was parked on the 3rd level of the Marriott parking garage, engine running, ready to leave if things went bad. Darren was positioned 1 level up with a clear view of the meeting spot, despite my instructions to come alone. Julian arrived right on time, driving his BMW with the windows still soaked from our earlier prank. He'd cleaned most of it off, but you could still make out cheaters and faded letters across the windshield. He got out of his car and walked over to my truck. Up close, he was even more impressive than in the photos, 6'2" of muscle and attitude, with the kind of confidence that came from never losing a fight. "Get out of the truck, Mac!" I turned off the engine but stayed seated. "I'm comfortable here." I said, "Get out." "And I said I'm comfortable. You wanted to talk, so talk." His jaw tightened. "You think you're real smart, don't you? Playing your little games, making me look like a fool." "I don't have to make you look like anything, Julian. You're doing fine on your own." "You know what your problem is, Mac? You're a small man with a small life, and you can't stand that someone like me exists. Someone who takes what he wants instead of settling for scraps." "Someone like you? You mean a thief and a liar?" His face darkened. "What did you call me?" "You heard me. I know about the money you've been stealing from clients. I know about the supplement scam. I know about all of it." For just a moment, Julian looked genuinely surprised. Then his expression hardened into something dangerous. "You don't know crap. I know enough." He stepped closer to the truck, his hands clenched into fists. "Let me explain something to you, Mac. I've got connections in this city. People who owe me favors. If you keep pushing this, I can make your life very difficult." "Difficult how?" "Building permits getting delayed. Health inspectors finding problems with your work sites. Clients hearing rumors about your reliability." I felt a surge of anger. "You threatening me? I'm educating you. This is how the real world works. People like me win, and people like you lose. That's just the natural order of things." I opened the truck door and stepped out. Julian was bigger than me, but I'd been in enough fights to know that size wasn't everything. "You want to know what I think, Julian?" "Not really. I think you're scared. I think for the first time in your life, someone's fighting back, and you don't know how to handle it." He took another step closer. "I'm not scared of you." "No? Then why are we having this conversation? Why not just let your uncle's connections handle it?" Something flickered in his eyes. Uncertainty, maybe even fear. "Because I wanted to give you a chance to walk away," he said. "But if you're too stupid to take it..." He swung at me. I'd been expecting it, so I was ready. I ducked under his punch and drove my fist into his solar plexus. He doubled over, gasping, and I followed up with an uppercut that snapped his head back. Julian stumbled backward, red streaming from his nose. For a moment, he looked genuinely shocked, like he couldn't believe someone had actually hit him. "You broke my nose," he said, his voice muffled by the mess. "You swung first. I've got a witness." He looked around the parking garage, suddenly realizing how exposed he was. "This isn't over." "You're right," I said, getting back into my truck. "It's not." As I drove away, I could see him in my rearview mirror, holding his nose and staring after me with a mixture of rage and something that might have been respect. He ran off, green streaks on his face. I guess karma really is a color. The next morning brought news that Julian had called in sick to work. According to Serena's breathless phone call, he'd told the gym manager he'd been in a car accident and needed a few days to recover. "But get this," she added. "Tommy from maintenance saw him in the parking lot yesterday, and he said Julian's nose looked like he'd been hit by a truck." "Accidents happen," I said. "Mac, what did you do?" "Nothing criminal." "That's not an answer. It's the only answer you're getting." Rebecca called that afternoon with an update on her investigation. She'd been busy since our coffee shop meeting, putting together what she called the complete Julian Carter package. "I've got everything we need," she said. "Financial records, video evidence, witness statements from 3 other women he scammed or cheated on. This is enough to destroy him professionally and personally." "What's the next step?" "We go public, big time. I'm talking about a coordinated release across social media, local news, and the state attorney general's office." "When?" "This weekend. There's a big fitness expo at the convention center downtown. Julian's supposed to be one of the featured presenters. Perfect timing for maximum exposure." The fitness expo was a huge deal in our city. 3 days of workshops, vendor booths, and networking events. Everyone in the industry would be there, including potential clients, competitors, and media. If we were going to destroy Julian's reputation, this was the place to do it. "What do you need from me?" I asked. "Just keep being yourself. Keep the pressure on. I'll handle the rest." Friday evening, Marta came by the house to pick up more of her belongings. She'd been staying at her sister's place since our confrontation, and the separation had not been kind to her. She looked tired, stressed, and older than her 42 years. "We need to talk," she said, standing in the doorway like she was afraid to come inside. "About what?" "About ending this. The divorce, the maltreatment, all of it." I let her in, but didn't offer her a seat. "I'm listening." "Julian and we're done. It's over. Has been for weeks. Congratulations. Mac, I know I hurt you. I know what I did was wrong, but this vendetta you're on, it's not healthy. For either of us. Vendetta? The green dye, the public humiliation. Whatever you did to Julian's face. It has to stop. I studied her face, looking for any sign of genuine remorse. All I saw was self-preservation. You know what's not healthy, Marta. 18 years of marriage down the drain because you wanted to feel young again. It wasn't about feeling young. It was about feeling alive. And I made you feel dead? She sighed. You made me feel invisible. When's the last time you looked at me? Really looked at me and saw something other than the woman who does your laundry and splits the bills? The question hit harder than I expected. When was the last time I'd really seen her? When had we stopped being a couple and started being roommates? That doesn't excuse what you did, I said. No, it doesn't, but it explains it. We stood there in silence for a moment. Two people who'd once loved each other enough to promise forever, now strangers in the ruins of that promise. What do you want from me, Marta? I want you to let it go. Sign the divorce papers, split our assets fairly, and move on with your life. And Julian? Julian's not your problem anymore. He's not mine either. He's everyone's problem. Do you know how many women he's done this to? How many marriages he's destroyed? That's not your responsibility. Maybe not, but it's my choice. She shook her head. You're going to destroy yourself over this, Mac. And for what? Revenge? Justice? What's the end game here? The end game is that people like Julian don't get to keep hurting people without consequences. And what about people like me? I looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time in months. She was still beautiful, still the woman I'd fallen in love with all those years ago. But she was also a stranger now, someone who'd made choices I couldn't understand or forgive. You made your choice, Marta. Now you get to live with it. She nodded, tears forming in her eyes. I guess I do. After she left, I sat in the kitchen for a long time, thinking about what she'd said. Was this really about justice, or was it just revenge? Did it matter? Saturday morning, the fitness expo opened with a bang. The convention center was packed with vendors, trainers, and fitness enthusiasts from across the region. Julian was scheduled to give a presentation on advanced training techniques at 2 p.m. in the main auditorium. He never made it to the podium. At 1:30, just as people were filing into the auditorium, the screens throughout the convention center lit up with a coordinated media blitz. Videos, documents, photos, and testimonials, everything Rebecca had compiled, presented in a professional, devastating package. The financial crimes were laid out in detail. Thousands of dollars stolen from clients, fraudulent supplement sales, embezzlement from gym accounts. The personal betrayals were documented with screenshots of text messages and emails. The pattern of predatory behavior was illustrated with testimony from 6 different women. And at the center of it all was Julian Carter, caught on hidden camera bragging about his schemes and laughing about the idiots who trusted him. The reaction was immediate and brutal. Within minutes, people were pulling out their phones, sharing the content across social media. The hashtag #JulianCarter was trending locally within an hour. I watched it all from the vendor area, standing next to a booth selling protein powder and energy drinks. The whole thing was beautiful in its precision, a perfectly orchestrated destruction that left no room for denial or defense. Julian tried to salvage the situation. He showed up at the convention center around 3 p.m., his face still bruised from our parking garage encounter, and attempted to give an impromptu press conference. It was a disaster. These allegations are completely false, he said, standing in front of a small crowd of reporters and fitness industry professionals. This is a coordinated attack by people who are jealous of my success. Someone in the crowd shouted, "What about the bank records? Fabricated. What about the video footage? Taken out of context. What about the women who've come forward?" Julian's composure cracked. Those women are lying. They're bitter ex-girlfriends and disgruntled clients who what? The voice came from the back of the crowd. Rebecca Torres pushed her way forward, holding a tablet computer. Who trusted you? Who believed your lies? Who thought they meant something to you? Julian's face went pale when he saw her. Rebecca, what are you doing here? I'm here to make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of person you are. She held up the tablet showing video footage of Julian in his apartment. This is you, 3 months ago, talking about how easy it is to manipulate desperate housewives into sleeping with you. The crowd pressed closer, phones out, recording everything. You said, and I quote, "These women are so pathetic they'll believe anything if you tell them they're beautiful." Do you remember saying that, Julian? That's not... I was just... You were just what? Being honest for once in your life? Julian looked around desperately, realizing he was trapped. The crowd was hostile, the media was recording, and there was no way to spin this in his favor. "This is maltreatment," he said finally. "I'm calling my lawyer." "Good idea," Rebecca said. "You're going to need one." Julian pushed through the crowd and fled the convention center. I followed him outside, curious to see how this would end. He was standing by his BMW fumbling with his keys when he saw me approaching. "You!" he said, his voice shaking with rage. "You did this. I had help. You destroyed my life. You destroyed your own life. I just made sure everyone found out about it." He stepped toward me, fists clenched, but stopped when he saw Darren emerge from behind a nearby car. My friend had been keeping watch, just in case Julian tried something stupid. "Walk away, Julian," I said. "It's over. This isn't over. I'll sue you for everything you're worth. You'll what? Hire a lawyer with the money you stole from your clients? Good luck with that." He stood there for a moment, shaking with impotent rage, then got in his car and drove away. I never saw him again. The aftermath was swift and complete. By Monday morning, Julian had been fired from the gym and banned from the fitness expo. By Wednesday, the state attorney general's office had opened an investigation into his financial crimes. By Friday, 3 different women had filed civil lawsuits against him. The gym where Marta worked tried to distance itself from the scandal, but the damage was done. Several clients canceled their memberships, and the local media kept running follow-up stories about the fitness industry predator who'd operated under their noses for years. Marta was fired on Tuesday, not for her relationship with Julian, that was technically legal, if morally questionable, but for conduct detrimental to the workplace environment. The gym needed a scapegoat, and she was convenient. She called me that evening, crying. "They fired me, Mac. After 8 years with the company, they just fired me." "I'm sorry," I said, and meant it. "No, you're not. This is what you wanted." What I wanted was for Julian to face consequences for his actions. You getting fired wasn't part of the plan. But you're not sorry it happened. I thought about that. Was I sorry? Marta had made her choices, just like Julian had made his. The consequences might have been more severe than either of them expected, but they were still consequences of their own actions. "I'm sorry you're hurting," I said finally. "But I'm not sorry that the truth came out." She was quiet for a long moment. "What happens now? Now you figure out what comes next, just like I'm doing." "Will you help me? With the divorce, I mean. Can we do this without destroying each other completely?" I looked around the house we'd shared for so many years. The kitchen where we'd eaten breakfast together. The living room where we'd watched movies. The bedroom where we'd once been happy. It all felt like ancient history now. "Yeah," I said. "We can do that." The divorce was finalized 3 months later. We split our assets fairly, sold the house, and went our separate ways. Marta moved to another state to start over. I bought a smaller place across town and focused on rebuilding my contracting business. Julian Carter disappeared from the local fitness scene entirely. Rumor had it he'd moved to Florida, but nobody knew for sure. The criminal investigation was still ongoing, but given the amount of evidence against him, most people expected charges to be filed eventually. Rebecca Torres sent me a thank you card 6 months later. She'd started her own consulting business, helping other victims of workplace maltreatment and financial fraud. Business was good, she said. Apparently, there were a lot of Julian Carters in the world. I kept the card on my refrigerator for a while, then threw it away. The whole thing was over, and I didn't need reminders. 1 year later, I ran into Serena at the grocery store. She was working at a different gym now, still gossipy, but somehow more subdued than I remembered. "Mac," she said, genuinely pleased to see me. "How are you doing?" "Good. You?" "Can't complain. Hey, did you hear about Julian?" I hadn't and wasn't sure I wanted to. "He got arrested in Tampa last month. Same scam, different city. Turns out he'd been running the same game down there, stealing from clients, sleeping with married women, the whole thing." "How'd they catch him?" Serena grinned. "One of his victims had a husband who was a cop. Julian picked the wrong woman to mess with." "Sounds familiar." "Yeah, it does. You know what's funny? I heard he still had that green tint when they arrested him. Faint, but noticeable." I smiled. "Green's a persistent color." That it is. As I walked to my car, I thought about Julian sitting in a jail cell somewhere, still faintly green, still paying for choices he'd made years ago. The idea should have made me happy, but mostly it just made me tired. Revenge, I'd learned, was a lot like green dye. It stained everything it touched, including the person applying it. The satisfaction was real but temporary. The consequences lasted much longer, but sometimes, just sometimes, it was worth it. As Marta limped away that final day at the courthouse, streaked with the metaphorical green of her own poor choices and broken dreams, I realized revenge doesn't heal you. But still, it can make you smile.